Navigating Decision Makers, Outsourcing Tips for Effective Lead Generation in 2025. Why decision makers aren't a single person anymore. In 2025, B2B selling isn't about finding the one decision maker. It's about earning attention and alignment across a buying group. Most serious deals involve roughly 10 to 11 stakeholders, which means your outbound motion has to persuade a committee, not just land a friendly reply. The problem is time. Buyers spend only about 17% of their buying journey in vendor conversations, and that small window is split across every vendor they're evaluating. If your message doesn't quickly sound relevant to the broader group, your outreach gets deprioritized, no matter how polished your template looks. This is exactly why sales outsourcing is surging again. Leaders aren't just looking for more activity. They're looking for a specialized, outsourced sales team that can reach real stakeholders, start credible conversations, and consistently create pipeline without burning their brand or wasting AE time. The 2025 Buying Committee Reality: Big Groups and High Friction. Buying groups are larger and messier than most outreach programs are built for. When deals touch IT, security, finance, operations, and legal, your ICP becomes a web of competing priorities, and a single-threaded approach, one persona, one contact, collapses fast. Gartner's research highlights how often those webs turn into friction. About 74% of B2B buying teams experience unhealthy conflict during the decision process. That matters because outbound that's framed too narrowly can accidentally intensify internal disagreement instead of helping a champion build consensus. If you're using a cold email agency or cold calling services that only optimize for meetings booked, you'll feel this conflict downstream as no-shows, stalled opportunities, and deals that quietly die after the first call. The fix is to design outbound around the buying group from day one, when outsourcing lead generation works and when it doesn't. Outsourcing is effective when you already know who you serve and why you win, but you don't have the internal bandwidth to run disciplined outbound every day. A strong SDR agency brings repeatable process, talk-track iteration, list-building services, and the operational consistency many teams struggle to maintain in-house. It can also change the economics. Many teams use outsourcing to reduce SDR costs by 30 to 50% and compress ramp time from months to weeks, especially when the provider already has enablement, tooling, and management in place. The key is to treat the partner like a revenue extension, not a black box vendor. Where it breaks down is predictable: fuzzy ICPs, constantly changing positioning, and shallow onboarding. If you hire SDRs externally and then feed them generic scripts, you'll get generic results, often worse than doing it in-house because you'll burn lists and lose trust internally. Build the program around buying groups, not a single persona. Start by mapping the buying committee for your top segments before the first dial goes out. Instead of briefing your outsourced team on one decision maker, define the 4 to 7 roles that repeatedly show up in real deals: economic buyer, champion, technical evaluator, security, finance, procurement/legal, and a likely blocker or influencer. Then give your provider messaging pillars per role that ladder up to shared outcomes. In practice, group-relevant framing, risk reduction, speed to value, cost control, compliance, tends to travel better across the committee than hyper-personalized, one-off angles that only resonate with one individual and can increase internal disagreement. Finally, co-own the account map. Your B2B sales agency partner should not guess who matters. You should share known champions and past learnings, and they should return stakeholder notes, engagement signals, and contact discovery into your CRM so your team builds a living map instead of random one-off leads. The best outsourced outbound programs don't book meetings. They build consensus by engaging the right roles early with messaging the whole buying group can repeat internally. Operationalize multi-threading with clear SLAs and the right channels. Multi-threading has to be a measured deliverable, not a nice-to-have. We recommend setting an SLA that rewards stakeholder coverage, how many relevant contacts and roles were reached, alongside meetings. A practical target is at least 3 engaged stakeholders per account before a meeting is considered a strong handoff, depending on ACV and cycle length. Channel mix matters just as much as the KPI. Email-only approaches tend to miss senior stakeholders, while a modern outbound sales agency combines B2B cold calling, targeted email, and LinkedIn outreach services to increase connect rates and role coverage. If you're paying for pay-per-appointment lead generation, require transparency on which channels actually produced decision-maker conversations. To make expectations unambiguous, align on qualification criteria up front, the minimum discovery your AEs require, and bake those fields into every handoff. Then inspect compliance weekly, early on, because the fastest way to kill a program is vague qualification and calendar spam that erodes AE trust. Avoid the mistakes that turn outsourcing into a meeting factory. The most common failure is treating outsourced SDRs like a cheap, isolated call center. When reps don't have access to ICP nuance, win-loss insights, objection patterns, and AE feedback, they default to generic scripts. And generic scripts don't survive the 17% attention window buyers allocate to vendors. The second mistake is optimizing for lead volume instead of buying committee penetration. A pipeline full of single-contact leads is fragile. Champions change jobs, priorities shift, and deals stall because no one influenced finance, IT, or procurement. If you outsource sales, your contract should explicitly value multi-threading and role coverage, not just raw meeting counts. The third mistake is underfunding data quality and direct dials. If your cold calling team is stuck at switchboards, connect rates drop and cost per real conversation explodes. Require reporting by data source, connect rate, conversations, meetings, and downstream outcomes so you can double down on the enrichment and providers that actually reach decision makers. Use AI for speed, but keep humans accountable for relevance. AI has raised the bar, not lowered it. The winning approach we see across high-performing SDR agencies is AI-assisted research and first-draft personalization paired with human judgment, guardrails, and QA. That combination helps you move fast without sending cringe outreach that hurts reply rates and brand credibility. A practical way to manage this is a structured experiment. Run an A/B test where half of prospects receive AI-assisted, human-reviewed openers, and half receive your current baseline. Measure not just replies, but meeting rates, seniority reached, and whether the first conversation includes the buying group context your champion can reuse internally. At SalesHive, we've built our outbound process around that balance. Human SDR talent with AI-powered tooling to scale relevance across cold calling services, email, and LinkedIn. The goal isn't more personalization, it's more buying group clarity delivered quickly enough to earn a second conversation. How to measure success: pipeline impact, not vanity activity. If your only KPI is meetings booked, you're inviting low-quality appointments. In 2025, the right scoreboard ties outsourced output to downstream impact: show rate, opportunity conversion, pipeline created, and decision-maker coverage across the accounts you care about. We recommend a closed-loop feedback rhythm. AEs tag meeting outcomes, good fit, bad fit, with specific reasons, Revenue Ops rolls results up monthly, and you review them with your B2B sales outsourcing partner in a focused session. This prevents set and forget drift and forces continuous improvement in targeting, messaging, and qualification. If you want predictable results from a cold calling agency or pay-per-meeting lead generation model, insist on transparency. What's being sent, who's being targeted, which roles are being reached, and how those meetings behave after the handoff. When the program optimizes for decision-maker conversations and buying group engagement, the calendar follows, and the pipeline becomes far more durable.